And now for the starting command of the first Gatorade 125 Grand Marshal Jamie Reed.
Gentlemen, start your engines.
Race number 1 is a 27-car field that features a rookie, Jimmy Johnson, on the pole, reigning champion Jeff Gordon alongside, and a pack of desperate drivers in the back of the field. It should be quite a ride. Parsons, your golf ball dollar.
Don't live on a golf course if Wally's nearby. All right, Bill, thank you. BP, the big race is Sunday, but the big pressure is today.
You know, the greatest thing about these races, Alan, we have 2 races going on at the same time. Number one, the guys, they want to try to win. They'll be doing everything they can to win. But the real race is to get in the Daytona 500 back for 14th or 15th. That will be the wild scramble. And Wally, you and I both have been in that position.
BP, it hurts. It's tough. You can see it on these guys' face. They are worried about it. They've got to get their way into the 500 to race in. Some of these guys have been running the whole season, like guys like Mike Skinner, Casey Atwood, Jimmy Spencer. They don't have a fast enough speed. They're not high enough in provisionals. They've got to race their way in, and I'll tell you what, that's a gut-wrenching feeling.
For those guys and several others, it's 15th or bust today. We like to say we know drama on TNT. Some of these Winston Cup drivers know drama right now. Will they be in Sunday's big race or not? Their chance to earn their way in is next. TNT Sports with live coverage of the Gatorade 125's to set the starting field for Sunday's running of the Daytona 500. Field of starters in race number 1 is on the track now. The first of 2 pace laps they'll make before the green flag. Here's how they'll take the start. Rookie Jimmy Johnson, the Daytona 500 pole sitter, will be alongside his car owner and teammate Jeff Gordon on row number 1. Second row, it's Ward Burton and another Hendrick Motorsports entry, Terry Labonte, Dodge and Chevy in row 2.
On the inside of row 3, 2-time Daytona 500 winner and last year's pole sitter, Bill Elliott. Mike Wallace trying to find a sponsor to continue on the outside. Dale Jarrett, 3-time winner of the Daytona 500 on the inside of row 4. Ricky Rudd looking for his first Daytona 500 victory.
Bobby Hamilton in a backup car. He was involved in a practice crash here the other day. He's lined up in row 5 along with Dale Earnhardt Jr., but he'll go to the back. Row 6, it's Brett Bodine, maybe on the bubble as to whether or not he'll make the 500 if he doesn't get in that top 14 or 15 today.
On the inside of row 7, Sterling Marlin, who won this very race last year. Joe Nemechek on the outside. On the inside of row 8 this afternoon is Jeffrey Bodine trying to make a comeback, and Hutch Strickland in a new ride.
Ninth row, Mark Martin never won a Daytona Winston Cup race, and Ryan Newman in a Penske Ford. The 10th row is Johnny Benson, has been very strong in practice, and Elliott Sadler in the Wood Brothers Ford.
Here's some guys that need to go forward to get in the top 15. Rick Mast on the inside of row 11 and Kurt Busch on the outside. Inside of row 12, Ricky Craven, Matt Kenseth. He's okay in points, but would like to move forward for a better starting spot.
13th row, Kyle Petty. Talked with him earlier. Kyle, 42nd in last year's owner points, 27th on time. Better make sure he's in the top 14 or 15 in this finishing order in race number 1. Let's get out of the wagon, Tony and Bill.
Tony, you've had a chance to practice with these guys, see how their cars are handling. There are some strong cars in this race.
Yeah, there really are, but at the same time, there's a lot of guys that didn't qualify well that really have strong race cars that are starting in the back of the pack. Some guys that qualified really well. We didn't see a lot of strength of them in practice, so it's going to be interesting to see how these first couple laps mix up, but I can tell you one thing, I'm going to watch for this red number 8 and see how long it takes him to get to the front.
Okay, that's the story from the wagon. Out to pit road to Marty Snyder.
And the goal for the pole sitter today, Jimmy Johnson, is very simple, Bill. You heard him talk to Dave Burns in the pre-race. Take care of the race car. I talked to his crew chief, Chad Knaus, and he said, you know what? We want to make sure the car is fine, number 1. Number 2, we want to see how it runs out front. And number 3, how it runs behind and who we run well with under these race conditions. To Matt.
And last year, Marty, Bill Elliott started out Speed Weeks with a bang, winning the pole, but he's hoping to start out at Speed Weeks with a bang a little later, hopefully today with a victory. His first in the 125 since 2000, but he had an interesting incident during practice on Tuesday. He actually hit the cover to a grill and knocked the nose in by 15 inches. His crew chief and crew fixed the nose of the machine. Now they feel like this 125 is going to be a big test for Sunday. Dave?
Matt, Ricky Rudd's crew is all repaired from their injuries in Homestead last year. They had some practice last Sunday when they got to pit Andy Hillenberg's ARCA car. They know what it's like mentally. They know what it's like physically. Bobby Burrell, Kevin Hall, and Johnny Bryan are all back for Ricky Rudd.
50 laps, 125 miles. The top 14 not already qualified for the 500, so the first 14 finishers except the 48 car of Jimmy Johnson make the cut for Sunday's Great American Race. Here they come down for the start.
And surprisingly, Dale Jarrett, that fourth car back to White Nose on the inside, did not get a very good start.
Jeff Gordon, outside lane, trying to ease forward, but Jimmy Johnson getting a push from Ward Burton, staying with him.
Most teams are talking that the outside line seems to be the fastest.
That's Tony Labonte behind Jeff Gordon, his teammate.
And Jeff Gordon will lead the first lap from the outside pole position.
Sterling Marlin in the middle of a 3-wide spread.
I don't think he'll want to be there too long. He can really get away with running the middle when your tires are new and everything's cool and you got a lot of grip, but it doesn't look like he's making too many gains up there in the center like we saw with the old rule package.
Jeffrey Bodine, the 09 car, going to get black flagged. He went below the yellow line on the inside of the racetrack. That is out of bounds here at Daytona. Let's go back and take a look.
Here he goes down to the inside of Sterling Marlin. There's contact there.
Well, it sure looks like he got pushed out of bounds to me.
I mean, it looked like he was trying to go there, and it looked like Sterling came down, and I agree with Wally.
And if he does take that penalty, he's basically taking himself out
of the Daytona 500.
Daytona 500. So that's a tough call, but I don't think he had much choice. He got knocked down there.
Jeffrey 30th in time trial speed, 53rd in owner points from last year. James Finch, who he's driving for, is, so his only chance is to make the cut in this race.
And I'll guarantee you those guys are arguing that point right now down on pit lane.
Jeff Gordon leads. You're on board Jimmy Johnson in 5th. That's Mike Wallace there that Johnson is trying to push through. Wallace to 3rd in the 33 car.
The black car on the outside is Ricky Rudd, who's back in the 5th position. Hey, Tony, what about Jeffrey Bodine, that pass where he was black flagged?
Well, NASCAR told us in the drivers' meeting this morning, it is at NASCAR's discretion whether they will black flag you for that. But they also talked about if you do get pushed below the yellow line, as long as you don't advance your position, there's probably not going to be a penalty. But if you saw in the replay, he actually got by Sterling and gained the spot, and that's probably where the black flag came from.
It looks like that Jeffrey Bodine is going to heed that black flag. He's slowing as he comes off turn 4.
He doesn't have much choice. He either comes in for his penalty or they stop scoring his car, and it's not going to do him any good to make laps anyway. So Bodine needs a caution now. He needs to come in and make this stop and have a caution come out to let him catch back up to the field.
As a matter of fact, Tony, isn't that almost exactly Dave Burns?
Benny, Jeffrey Bodine is in, and he is gone. That's a stop-and-go penalty. Crew Chief Johnny Allen tried to argue with NASCAR officials against it. He said, bring it on in. Everybody settle down, and they're in and out. They need a caution now to catch back up to the field.
Tony, isn't that almost exactly what happened to you in the Pepsi 400 last July?
It is exactly what happened, but that was the first time that anybody had really had a questionable call on what the rule really was with the yellow line, but I think NASCAR's making it more clear to all of us what is actually acceptable and not acceptable. As far as you can go across it, but as long as you don't improve your position, there won't be much of a penalty.
Jeff Gordon leads. Terry Labonte is second. They're stacked up from third on back. 5 laps in. The Daytona 500 qualifying races on TNT. No change up front. It's still Jeff Gordon leading in the first of today's 2 Daytona 500 qualifying races, but they're mixing it up from fourth on back.
You see Dale Earnhardt Jr. has moved up into he's fifth that time by trying to take that 4th spot away.
Just on this last lap on the back straightaway, Jimmy Johnson, the pole sitter for the Daytona 500, flirting with that yellow line.
He comes down, Mike Wallace puts the block on him.
Oh, I'd say that's more than flirting.
And Jimmy Johnson goes by Mike Wallace. I don't know what NASCAR is going to do about that, but
nothing so far.
Marty, what are they saying?
Well, Jimmy Johnson came on the radio. He was concerned that he went out of bounds, but he made the point to say that he forced me out of bounds if I was out of bounds. They're trying to calm him on the radio. As you could imagine, the rookie has a lot of nerves in this race. They're trying to keep him as calm as they possibly can.
Marty, they are going to black flag Jimmy Johnson for going below the yellow line on the back straightaway.
Hold on a second, buddy.
Obviously, Jimmy just getting the word from his crew there. Not too happy about it.
It's pretty fortunate he's sitting on that front row, BP, or he'd be going home
possibly. He pushed it down below the line.
Because he's guaranteed that spot.
Brakes, but I had help pushing me past it.
Check it out. Matt Kenseth up to 11th. He's in the Daytona 500. Kyle Petty up to 13th. Right now, he's in the Daytona 500. And Joe Nemechek already in, moving towards the front in the 26 car.
Right now, Dale Jarrett is in the 15th spot. He has the last transfer position.
Ooh, that 12 car got loose there in the middle.
And that might have put Kyle Petty out of the Daytona 500. That move by the 12 car.
Here comes Dale Jr. Inside, Terry Labonte for second. Mike Wallace going with him.
And Dale Earnhardt Jr., that 8 car, told me last night, I said, are you going to take it easy? He said, I want to run first or second in the qualifying race. He said, I want me a qualifying trophy.
Dale Jr.
Dale Jr.
Well, let's see, his dad only collected what, 12 of them?
10 in a row.
Over the years here?
Yikes.
Look at this.
Stop and then go.
4 lines.
Now, Jimmy Johnson's trying to slow down and get clear to go to pit road.
That could be ugly.
That could be real ugly. I hope he runs another lap.
Wave him off. Wave him off.
No, man. He's waving.
He doesn't have a choice. NASCAR's told him if he doesn't pit this time, they're going to stop scoring him.
4100, second gear at the line. 4100.
So Johnson coming in. And again, not a big deal for him. He's going to start on the pole for the Daytona 500, period.
Marty?
And they reminded him, do not flat spot the tires, come in real nice and easy. Jimmy, of course, suggested, as all drivers would, let's just park the thing because we're already in the race. But they said, let's leave you out. Let's just see what happens in this race. We could get a caution and catch up with the pack.
This could be huge for Jeffrey Bodine if he can get caught up with Jimmy Johnson because he has a very fast race car. Maybe it would keep Jeffrey from getting lapped before this thing is over. And then he catches the caution flag, he's back in the race.
Now, because Jimmy Johnson is outside of the top 15, the transfer spot becomes 14th. It's the first 14 cars not already qualified for the 500, and in this race, the only driver qualified is that 48. So the 14th place right now is Johnny Benson. And among those outside the cut, Mark Martin, Hut Strickland, Ward Burton, Dale Jarrett, and Bill Elliott. They're all outside the top 14, excuse me. There's Kyle Petty in the 45. Kyle is in 9th spot right now.
And believe me, that is not comfortable for Kyle. Kyle wants to get as far ahead as he can. He looks up in the mirror and sees these cars 2 by 2 stacked up all the way back. And, I mean, you can lose 8-9 positions in one lap. So he is still not real comfortable with the position he's in.
Bill Elliott moves in to 14th spot. Matt Kenseth now gets kicked outside that lead group.
And there we see Bill Elliott back in 14th is over 3.5 seconds behind Jeff Gordon. As a matter of fact, we have a 5-car breakaway for the lead.
And I don't think you'll see too many of these guys worrying about jockeying for position. They want to get away from this pack. And now you've got another pack just behind them that's 5 or 6 deep. They want to get away from that pack. How about it, Matt?
Well, you're absolutely right. Ty Norris, Dale Earnhardt Jr. spotter, just told Junior 2 laps ago that he has gotten with the spotters from the other 4 cars in their pack, and they have cut a deal to stay in line to try to pull away even more from the cars behind them.
That lead group, Jeff Gordon, Dale Earnhardt Jr., Mike Wallace, Ken Schrader, and Terry Labonte. Then the gap, a couple of seconds, 2.5 now. Back to Ricky Rudd in 6th, Sterling Marlin in 7th, Joe Nemechek in 8th, Ricky Craven in 9th, and Kurt Busch in 10th.
Right now on the track, you've got 13 cars. The top 13 are basically in single file. And then those guys stacked up right there are fighting for that transfer spot.
15 in, 36 to go. Now 35 to go as the leaders cross the start-finish line. Here are the drivers right now that are not in the Daytona 500 at this point. 5 cars at the head of the pack in the Daytona 500 qualifying races. Race number 1, Jeff Gordon is the leader. Dale Earnhardt Jr. is second. Change for third while we were in the break. Ken Schrader and Terry Labonte. Shuffling Mike Wallace back to 5th.
And Mike Wallace looks like in the 33 car, the auto lead car is struggling. Well, I thought he was struggling to keep up. It looks like going through the corners that time. He did manage to get on the back bumper of Terry Labonte.
Well, he's got help coming, BP, because normally 10 cars lined up in a draft are going to catch 5 cars lined up in a draft. So if these guys stay in line behind this lead group, they'll catch that front draft.
All right, let's see. We see Jeff Gordon, Sterling Marlin back in 7th position. You see Sterling is a little over 2 in the 3rd second, but it's growing, Wally. It's getting larger. They're pulling away from this pack of cars.
See what happens. Track that over a couple of laps and see if now that these drivers have lined up, if they're able to close the gap. Right now, outside the transfer spot, Ryan Newman, though he's going to be good on points. Remember that that car's got the points from the 12 car last year. It's last year's owner points. So they should be okay. Dale Jarrett, we know he'll be fine. Elliott Sadler, Mark Martin, Bill Elliott. But Brett Bodine is back in 20th place. He's 21st on time, 35th on points.
On the clock, they're catching him a little bit.
There's Ricky Rudd running in 6th place right now. We talked with Ricky a little bit earlier in the week about strategy for his qualifying race today. He said simple, stay away from the desperate ones.
Well, it's pretty scary. You get back to the back. I've been here before. It's not a pretty place back there. It's a lot of hard racing going on. A lot on the line for a lot of teams that don't have provisional spots, that maybe didn't particularly qualify well on the stopwatch. So it's do or die for them, and they drive that way. I mean, they're doing what they need to do. They really hang it all out. If they don't hang it out and maybe get their car in the Daytona 500, there won't be a Sunday for them. So as far away from that mid-pack or 15th place transfer spot, the better off that we're going to be.
But he's pretty close to it right now. As a matter of fact, the 22 cars in 12th position, so he is away from the scramble, and it will be a mad scramble for that 14th position.
Let's talk pit strategy. There really isn't any for this race if there is no caution. The cars can all run more than 50 laps on a tank of fuel, so that's fine. However, if the caution comes out, we could see a variety of tire strategies on pit road. Some of the guys in the back trying to take 2 tires to get some track position and get up front, that kind of thing.
I think that they're really concerned about the tires going away after about 25, 30 laps. So I think the caution flag should come out right now. Most of these cars would dive in the pits, and most of the lead cars would change 4. We saw last week in the Bud Shootout that Rusty Wallace changed 2 tires, Kenny Wallace changed 2. They got great track position, but the guys ran them down and left them.
Well, I think other than what the rule package like last year, the cars handled so good, they stuck so good, the handling wasn't as much or as important as it is now. Tony, what do you think about that?
I agree. It puts more of the driver back in our hands. I think what you saw last week, too, that you got to keep in mind, if we get a yellow today, everybody's going to be grouped up on the restart, where last week when Rusty Wallace and Kenny Wallace were ahead of us taking 2 tires, they were way far ahead of the pack. It gave us an opportunity to get grouped up 3 or 4 cars at a time, and we were running against them one-on-one, 4 cars versus 1, so they didn't have drafting help. So when we did catch them, we were able to go by right away and pull away without having to worry about those guys coming back on us.
Kirk Shelmerdine, Carl Long going a lap down to the leaders. The 80 and 85 cars, respectively.
So that's 2 cars, 80, 85, and the 85 of Carl Long that will not be in the Daytona 500 on Sunday.
Either driver with points or much of a time trial speed to fall back on. Up the top, cars that are not inside the top 14 are those who may be in trouble if they don't have a good time trial speed or points to fall back on from last year. Brett Bodine, 21st on time. That's going to be close.
It's going to be really close. Last year, the time that made the field was 16th fastest overall time. John Andretti started 36th in the 2001 Daytona 500, and as I just said, he was the 16th fastest qualifier.
And Brett got the final spot in last year's 500 field on owner points. He's 35th in owner points, and that last spot in the field last year went to 36th in owner points. So it's going to be nerve-wracking for him if he can't get up and get qualified right now.
And you can see just how consistent these cars are. 182, it never changed down the entire length of the backstretch. As he goes in the corner and hits this banking, it will slow down a little bit, down to about 179. Now, we should see 184, 185 on the front stretch because of the tailwind. I see 183, 184. The wind just blowing that car right along. Come on, 185. Junior, 180. There you go. As he drives off the corner, we might even see. Oh, it went away. I thought I was going to see 187.
You ever get tired of this? You got a future as an auctioneer. Okay? Jeff Gordon is the leader of Daytona 500 qualifying race number 1. We're halfway through. Back at Daytona International Speedway, NASCAR on TNT with live coverage of the Daytona 500 qualifying races. Jeff Gordon is the leader. Dale Earnhardt Jr. is second. Ken Schrader, Terry Labonte, and Mike Wallace make up the rest of the lead draft. Coming up Saturday on TNT, coverage of final practice. Happy hour for the Daytona 500 starting at noon Eastern time. And then the NASCAR Busch Series season opener, the EAS GNC Live Well 300. That's Saturday on TNT.
And Mike Wallace is about to lose that lead draft. And if he does, that group behind him is going to catch him in a hurry.
The 44th Daytona 500. Sunday, NASCAR on NBC at 12 noon Eastern time. And there you see the gap between Terry Labonte and Mike Wallace.
Oh, I think Mike is just hanging on by his fingernails right now. He's like that, almost like that guy on the side of the wall. Please, please, hang on, hang on. He does not want to fall.
Check out the scoring summary at the top of the screen, the manufacturers and who's running where. That lead draft is all General Motors products. The first Ford is Ricky Rudd in 6th. We've talked about him trying to pull that second draft up to the first one. The Fords and Dodges in that group are not having much success catching the Chevys and Pontiacs.
Well, we showed you a few laps ago, it's 2.44 seconds behind that lead group. It's right now the last time by 3.43 seconds. So they lost a second in the last 10 laps or so.
I think you're right, BP, but these guys in the back pack are not running as tight as that front group. That front group is running each other's tracks. These guys are they're just straggled all over the place, so that's going to hurt them catching that group as well.
Not much as far as competition for the lead today compared to last year's rules, is there?
No, there isn't.
Jeff Gordon got the lead from pole sitter Jimmy Johnson after basically they ran side by side for the first lap, and that's been it.
The one reason for these guys, they're back racing for that 14th, 15th spot. That lap by, Kyle Petty is now back to 15th. He's out of the Daytona 500 if the race should end right now as it is.
Dale Jarrett and Matt Kenseth have moved by Kyle Petty. And now Johnny Benson and Bill Elliott trying to mount a charge also.
Wow. A little bit of loose there. And is that Johnny Benson's car?
Yeah. We noticed he lost 5 positions in a lap 2 circuits ago. And now looks like he's regrouped and trying to move his way back forward.
Tony, why are we not seeing any passing in this race?
Well, I think those first 5 cars, they're staying nose to tail. They're looking behind saying, hey, if we stay in a tight line like this, we're going to pull away from these guys. The second group of cars, they're looking at just the opposite. If we stay in a line, we might be able to catch this lead group. But I can promise you one thing. If that second pack does catch that lead pack, it's going to start getting interesting. It won't be single file anymore after that.
Well, the way things are going now, Tony, they have no chance of catching that first pack without a caution. 4.2 seconds behind Jeff Gordon now is 6th place Ricky Rudd. Boy, look at this. This is around that transfer spot, and this is desperate. It's 1 spot out of the race. These guys need to get together.
And Bill Elliott is trying to push Kyle Petty by. Now, okay, guys, let's get lined up and see if we can't catch Matt Kenseth and get back in the race for the last transfer spot.
And I think if Bill Elliott probably was sitting there not knowing who to go with until he saw that 10 car get loose a couple times. He said, boy, if I get my nose on his tail, I'm going to wreck this guy. So I think he decided to go with the 45 car.
And there we see Johnny Benson.
17th place. Running right behind Bill Elliott and Kyle Petty. But the big deal here is the gap now from Kyle up to Matt Kenseth.
Yes, you're right. Matt Kenseth, the last spot, and he's put some distance on these guys. Last time by, it was 1 second. Do they have enough speed? Does Elliott and Kyle have enough speed with some help to catch Matt Kenseth?
These guys don't get lined up. They have no chance.
But Matt is kind of running by himself right there. He's not with the draft.
That's true. This could get interesting. Final spots in the Daytona 500 on the line. 17 laps to go in qualifying race number 1, and all of these drivers needing to get farther up front. Action at the transfer spot as we come back with 13 laps to go. Ricky Craven fading from the lead group. The second pack has caught Matt Kenseth. Brett Bodine is in the Daytona 500 with that pass.
And Kyle Petty loses 2 spots. Brett Bodine gets by. Bill Elliott gets by. Just when we thought that Kyle in the 45 was going to catch the 17, he picked up that push off the second corner, I think, and had to back off the gas, which allowed those other 2 cars to get by. Marty, what's going on with Kyle? What's he saying?
Kyle is really struggling with a very tight race car, Benny, and they have been in this situation before. You heard him in the pre-race. The last 7 Daytona 500s, he's had to race his way in. In 5 of those races, he's gotten the transfer spot on the last lap.
Wow. Drama starting to build. Right now, Kyle, Craven, and Benson, those 3 cars are out. Brett Bodine has the last transfer spot into the Daytona 500, and he's 2 ahead of them.
Dave, what's happening with Ricky Craven? He's falling back all of a sudden.
Benny, his car has gone very, very tight. It will not turn going into the corners, just wants to push up the racetrack, and that's why he's suddenly losing spots.
When we say tight, the driver goes in the corner and turns that car left, but it doesn't want to go left. It continues going straight. That's what we call pushing or tight.
So over the final 10 laps, we'll see if Dale Earnhardt Jr. can make a move on Jeff Gordon for the lead, and we'll see if these drivers can get up and get qualified for the 500. Kyle Petty, 27th on time, 42nd on points. I don't know.
Anxious moments, and he knows. I'm sure he's wanting to know where he's at, what position he's at, but pretty helpless. Unless you have help out there, it's going to be tough for him to even catch that group in front of him right now.
So far, Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s made no move on Jeff Gordon. He's been behind him, what, about 25 laps now? No bid at all. Let's mention that Jimmy Johnson ducked onto pit road for a green flag stop a minute ago.
He changed tires. That's probably for 2 things. Number 1, you brought up a good point, to get some pit crew practice, to get them some practice, but also see what his car does with a chassis adjustment and 4 fresh tires.
So he's a lap down. Jeffrey Bodine has been caught and put a lap down also. The numbers, the gap on the bottom of the screen, that's the interval from Brett Bodine, who's got the last transfer spot, to Bill Elliott, who's 1 out of the 500. You see it on the track, you see it on the stopwatch.
You see, that's 0.14 of a second. And the difference in the pole position on Saturday afternoon between Jimmy Johnson and Kevin Harvick was 16 1/1000ths of a second.
Marty, straighten us out on what Jimmy Johnson's team did with that pit stop.
Well, actually what happened, Alan, is they started to develop a tire rub on the left front tire. So they came in, changed tires. They did make a chassis adjustment, and they're kind of perplexed as to why that rub developed later in the race. That's something they'll try to figure out in practice tomorrow.
Okay, here we go. Again, Johnson will start on the pole for the Daytona 500 unless somehow he crashes that car in final practice on Saturday. But right now, he's a lap down, 2 laps down, check that, back in 26th place. Eight to go. Tony, you were in Jeff Gordon's spot in the Budweiser shootout Sunday. Were you playing more defense than offense on Dale Jr. at this point?
I can tell you one thing. Down the straightaways, I was watching the mirror 3 times as much as I was watching in front of me, and I was watching the racetrack 3 times as much as I was in the corners. But you spent the majority of your time watching what was going on behind you, because everything in front of you, it didn't matter. It was all what was going on behind you.
Tony, thanks a lot for joining us. We'll be watching you in this second race.
All right, we'll see what we can do, guys.
And that's what they told me. Some of the crew chiefs told me that last year's race, you drove looking through the windshield, looking at the cars in front of you. This year's race, you will drive looking out the rear window, just like Jeff Gordon's doing right now, to see where the 8 car is going. He's looking out the rear window as much as he is the windshield.
You saw Dale Earnhardt Jr. back off Jeff Gordon's bumper a little bit in turn 3 and then take that big run off of turn 4 at him to try and get by in the draft.
And while they're monkeying around up there, that has allowed the 33 car of Mike Walsh to get back on the bumper of Terry Labonte.
And the 6th car in that group is Jimmy Johnson, who's 2 laps down.
Marty, what's Robbie Loomis saying about the 24? Is it okay?
Well, there's very little radio traffic on Jeff Gordon's scanner, Benny, but what he has said in the last 3 laps is that the handling has started to go away, but he knows he's in the best position in the lead.
Let's check in on that transfer spot back in the field. Brett Bodine still hanging on to the 14th spot. As we look back to find that group, here they come. Bill Elliott in the 9 car is 1 spot outside of the 500 grid.
And Kyle Petty is in 16th, but Kyle and his group are getting a little bit closer to Bill Elliott, Brett Bodine, and Matt Kenseth.
Now, Elliott's going to be in the 500 even if he doesn't pick up another position. He was 9th fastest on time. He's in. Question is, what about the guy behind him? Matt?
Alan, they keep telling Brett Bodine that Bill Elliott will not try to make a move because Elliott knows he's in the 500. Elliott is reporting to his crew chief, Mike Ford, that his car's a little bit tight. Meanwhile, Brett Bodine says his car just won't run like yesterday's practice session. Remember, guys, it was about 15 degrees cooler. Brett Bodine missed the show back in 2000, hoping to hang on again and sneak his way back into the 500.
Thing is, for Kyle to get in this race, he's going to need the help of Bill Elliott and also the 10 car, Johnny Benson.
Matt Kenseth going wide to try and get around the Jeffrey Bodine lap car, and Brett's going to drop behind his brother and try and get a little draft.
And Jeffrey comes down to, and now we've got 3 cars ganged up on Matt Kenseth on the bottom of the racetrack.
Could be the opening Kyle Petty needs to get into the race. But he's not close enough to take advantage.
Couldn't capitalize on it.
So now Matt Kenseth is outside the field. Kenseth 14th in points from last year. He should get a provisional. Unless something drastic happens in race 2.
And again, we talk about getting in. We know if you're in the top 14, you're going to be in the race. We don't know what's going to happen in the second race. We don't know what's going to happen to the provisionals until the second race has been run. And we see Carl Long very, very slow off turn 2.
There's the gap. Elliott to Kenseth, in versus out. Jeffrey Bodine getting out of the way of the cars racing for that spot. Remember, Bodine had a stop-and-go penalty for going below the out-of-bounds line, the yellow line, early in the race. It put him a lap down.
And Carl Long is not going to make it in. Hopefully he will drive behind the wall there.
Which he did.
Mark Martin has just taken his car to the garage. Jimmy Johnson has also gone to the garage. So those two drivers feeling like nothing more to gain at this point. Certainly that the case for Johnson. And Benson and Kyle Petty, whoa!
Kyle is desperately trying to keep that position and get himself where he might be able to get by the 17 in the last couple of laps. He knew if he gave that spot away to Benson, he was out, guaranteed to be out.
Here's Schrader for second to the outside of Dale Earnhardt Jr. Who does Gordon help?
Is there smoke coming out of the 33 car?
Yeah. Yep. Schrader looking, Junior blocking. Gordon to block.
And
tense.
Here comes Schrader on the outside. He's got a great run going, and he's got the momentum of the outside, but all the fast cars are on the inside.
Coming to the white flag. Final lap of the first Daytona 500 qualifying race. Jeff Gordon, Dale Earnhardt Jr., Ken Schrader, Terry Labonte, and that dicing up front has brought a second group up to join this fight.
Ricky Rudd, the 28 car, he's right in there with them.
Schrader fading back on the outside. It was worth the gamble.
Sterling Marlin's in that group.
Now it's Mike Wallace getting shuffled. Here's Ricky Rudd around Terry Labonte into fourth. Final corner. And I don't think Junior's going to have enough. To the start-finish line, second time in his career, Jeff Gordon wins his Daytona 500 qualifying race. Now checking back for the transfer spot. Here's where it counts. Bill Elliott gets the last position. Matt Kenseth, Johnny Benson, Kyle Petty didn't make it. Hut Strickland, Ricky Craven, Elliott Sadler, Bobby Hamilton, Rick Mast, all outside the cut.
And all they can hope now is that that second qualifier runs nice and clean, and they go back and use about the 35th fastest car to get in the Daytona 500.
Jeff Gordon wins the first of today's two Daytona 500 qualifying races. There are the top 10. All will start on the inside lane in Sunday's Daytona 500. And now the drivers who finished beyond 14th will have to fall back on either a time trial spot or provisionals from last year, those drivers on down, if they're to be in Sunday's running of the Great American Race. And of course, Jimmy Johnson, he'll start on the pole regardless Sunday. Remember, he got penalized and went a couple of laps down after going below the out-of-bounds line earlier in the race.
You're the champ, baby, you're the champ. Junior, he's good, man, he's good.
Welcome back to Daytona. The first qualifying race is over, and Jeff Gordon has made a triumphant return to victory lane at the Daytona International Speedway. High fives from his crew, a hug from his car owner, and the celebration for the DuPont team at Daytona is underway. Congratulations, outstanding race.
Oh man, what an exciting day. Man, I tell you, Junior, he's something else. He gave me a heck of a fight. I had my hands full there. The car just drove so good all week long and really all winter long. These guys at Hinder Motorsports have done such an awesome job preparing these cars. Really want to thank DuPont for having such an incredible company that they've been around for 200 years. And this 200th anniversary car, this our 500 car, won that third spot, and we got it. So this is awesome.
You told us in the pre-race you wanted to start behind your teammate, the car you co-own, and you will.
Yeah, I'm very excited about that. I don't know what happened to Jimmy out there. It looked like he was doing real good there at the beginning. I don't know if he got shuffled out, but that's just a lesson for him, and he's going to be really good. By the time we get to Sunday. But I'm just so excited about my race team. I can't believe that we've come back. And after a 2001 season like we had, and we're off to such a great start here, and the car is just phenomenal right now, and makes my job a whole lot easier. So I'm looking forward to Sunday. This is the best chance we've had in a long time to win a Daytona 500.
Congratulations. See you Sunday.
All right, we'll see you Sunday.
That's Jeff Gordon. He's in victory lane, but he's not the only winner. Let's go to Matt Yoakum.
Bill Gordon may have raced in the victory lane, but Brett Bodine has raced into the 500. Can you even describe how big of a relief it is now, Brett?
Wow, it's huge. I'll tell you, with 15 to go, I wouldn't have given you a plug nickel for it, because we were so far back, and we weren't making any ground. And all of a sudden, Bill pushed up, and I got in front of him. And how about that, Dave? Bill pushed up, and I got in front of him, and that's what I needed, someone pushing me. And then I just made the holes for him, and we marched ourselves right back up into a qualifying spot.
Congratulations, you're in the 500. Now let's go to Dave.
And standing by with Rick Mast right now, who did not make the field. Rick, how close are you to make it in on points or speed at this point?
You know what? We've been in such trouble since I've been here. I'm not even going to pay any attention until it's over and see. Once it's over, then it can tell me if we're in the race or not. I mean, we struggled with the car trying to get up to speed. And, here, as these guys up top know, when you're in the middle of that draft, especially early in the race, you got to make your move then. The problem with my car, I get like 2 car lengths behind somebody. It was a big buffer zone with the car. I couldn't keep tucked up under the guy in front of me. And that, in turn, enabled cars to get in front of me, in the draft, and they would shuffle you right to the end of the line. And then once they lined up, it would take me on back. But Daytona's gut-wrenching, but it's still fun.
He'll find a place to watch and wait to see if he makes it. Alan?
Jeff Gordon wins. Brett Bodine is in. Rick Mast, he's got a nerve-wracking hour and a half or so ahead of him. Here are the results from qualifying race number 1.
And it was impressive to see Ricky Rudd and that group get up to, and Ricky Rudd finished in 4th position.
Kyle Petty also with a nerve-wracking 90 minutes ahead of him.
97 cars up there too. Kyle Busch, he had to get in a real important race for him.
Start setting the stage for race number 2 when we come back in just a minute. Back at Daytona, qualifying race number 1 is over. Some drivers are celebrating their secured spot in the Daytona 500. Others are about to get a real bad case of nerves. Matt, which side of that coin is your guest on?
Well, Kurt Busch can take a big sigh of relief. He's in the 2002 44th running of the Daytona 500. He did a lot of work out there.
It seemed like a lot of work. We just minded our P's and Q's, and I knew if we worked as hard as we could on the car, and I drove it as smart as I could, that we'd end up in the show.
You just talked to your teammate, Jeff Burton. What'd you tell him?
He's a great guy. I just thought I'd say hello and good luck to him, but I just, trying to help out all the Roush cars, just trying to get us up to speed. We know we're behind. We've been working at it. We're gaining. We're making some strides, and I just got to thank all the Rubbermaid veteran-type guys now. We're marching forward.
He finishes 7th today. Marty?
And Matt, with Richard Petty, Kyle Petty changing clothes right now, and obviously a little bit upset. What did Kyle say happened with the race car, and how worried are you about the next race? Do you feel comfortable with a 27th fastest speed?
Yeah, you're worried about the speed. That's the only thing to get him in. He said the car just, after a few laps, it just got to pushing so bad he couldn't go anywhere, and he's just tore all the pieces, and we are, because the car's a lot better than what we showed. So, it's not a good way to start the season.
It's definitely not a good way to start the season. Again, they have the 27th fastest speed in qualifying time. Robin Pemberton, team manager, told me that they are pretty confident that will make the race. Dave?
Mike Wallace had 2 top 10 finishes here at Daytona last year. Marty, Mike, great job out there. How good is your car for the 500?
My car's good. It got a little slide in the front end right there at the end a little bit, and I thought I could go for 3rd and got tagged to the back, but thank the Auto League for coming on board for this race with their side curtain airbags, and hopefully we can keep them on board the rest of the year, or we need a sponsor to go under Rockingham.
Mike Wallace also has a Craftsman Truck Series win here. He hopes for the 500 win on Sunday. Alan?
They are getting the cars ready for qualifying race number 2 back inside the NASCAR Winston Cup Series garage. They've already been inspected. They're lined up and about ready to be rolled out onto the track. We'll come back with more NASCAR action from Daytona in a minute.
TNT Sports is live at the Daytona International Speedway getting ready for the second Gatorade 125 to align the rest of the top 30 starters for Sunday's running of the 44th Daytona 500. Some drama has already folded. Now we're getting set for the second race. Let's go check out on pit road with Marty Snyder.
Well, Bill, Jimmy Spencer has everything on the line today. 38th in owners' points, 46th fastest in qualifying, first race with a big sponsor in Target. No pressure there, and it all happens in the next 50 laps, Spencer. Same question we asked Kyle Petty in the first race. Are you confident you can race your way in?
Yeah, I think I can. You know, I'll tell you, this team is a great team, Team Target, and we've had some really good tests. We've obviously missed it here a little bit, but this is my job. You know, I got to get to the top 15. That's what we could do with the Team Target Dodge. It's my type of race. Car's handling really well. Got a new motor in here. It's a motor Sterling ran on Sunday. So, you know, I think if the race goes caution-free, that's going to be our best opportunity. That's what we're hoping for.
He turns 45 tomorrow. He wants one birthday present, a starting position in the Daytona 500. Matt?
Marty, the sentimental favorite today would have to be veteran Dave Marcus. A career that has seen 5 Winston Cup wins and a record-tying 32 consecutive Daytona 500 appearances could come to a close today. Marcus has to finish 14th or better depending upon what Kevin Harvick does. Dave, this could be your last time behind the wheel of the Winston Cup car. Can you describe the pressure trying to make the 500?
Well, I think so. I mean, there is a lot of pressure. I want to do good for everybody that works for myself, everybody at the Richard Childress organization. They've worked on the car. Our sponsor, Mr. Bill Jordan, and probably I put more pressure on myself. But, you know, this is my 35th Daytona 125 miler, and I would especially like to do good and maybe even win this race for my late friend Dale Earnhardt.
What a dramatic finish that could be. Dave Burns?
Matt, one woman has raced in the Daytona 500. It was Janet Guthrie the last time she did it, 1980. Shauna Robinson, you're close on speed. Can you race your way into the Daytona 500?
Well, I definitely feel like we can. We've been good in happy hour and, in drafting practice, and the car sucks up good. It seems like as long as you have a partner in front and behind, you're good, and that's what we'll do. We'll put ourselves in a position to be there.
We'll definitely be watching. Shauna, for luck, she has a picture of her dad's race car on her dashboard. Lefty used to be a late model racer. Bill?
Thanks, Dave. It's a 26-car field with a 26-year-old on the pole. Kevin Harvick already locked in to the starting grid for the Daytona 500. The second of the qualifying races about to begin. Let's go trackside.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you please, Amy Melvin.
Drivers, start your engines.
With that, ladies and gentlemen, ranking up the engine. Ready for the second Gatorade 125
26 cars, 26 drivers trying to get one of 43 spots in Sunday's running of the Daytona 500. The second qualifying race just ahead on TNT.
At the Daytona International Speedway, NASCAR on TNT with live coverage of the Daytona 500 qualifying races. The field for race number 2 rolling out from the NASCAR Winston Cup garage, and here's how they'll line up. Kevin Harvick guaranteed to start second in the 500 Sunday, but he's on the pole for this race alongside Robert Presley in Mark Melling's Dodge. Row number 2, it's Robbie Gordon. Mike Skinner won his qualifying race in this car last year, and the defending 500 winner, Michael Waltrip.
On the inside of row 3, Jeff Green, another car from Richard Childress Racing, trying to make his first Daytona 500. And 2000 champion Bobby Labonte on the outside. Jerry Nadeau on the inside of row 4, and Jeremy Mayfield, his first race in Ray Evernham's Dodge.
Kenny Wallace in the DEI Chevrolet, normally driven by Steve Park, and our TNT special contributor Tony Stewart there in row 5. Sixth row, we just talked to him a minute ago, Dave Marcus seeking his 33rd Daytona 500 start alongside John Andretti.
On the inside of row 7, Jeff Burton. This is the first Ford in this qualifying race. Casey Atwood in a different Dodge. This year on the inside of row 8, there we see Shauna Robinson trying to be the second female to run the Daytona 500.
Todd Bodine's in a backup car after a practice crash a couple of days ago. He'll drop to the end of the field. Dave Blaney with him there now on row number 9. 10th row, Greg Biffle. No points to fall back on. And Stacy Compton, one of those drivers in the danger zone. He better race his way to the front.
And both these guys have got to finish in the top 14 to be in the Daytona 500. Buckshot Jones and Jimmy Spencer. Same thing. Bobby Gearhart, Hermit Sadler. If they don't finish in the top 14 or 15, they're going home.
Mike Skinner, 41st on time trial speed, 37th on last year's owner points. He too needs to make the cut, or he is not going to be in Sunday's Daytona 500. The start when we come back. Going green next time by for race number 2 today here at Daytona. Let's check on pit road. First, here's Marty Snyder.
Well, Alan, I talked to Kevin Harvick just before he got in the car. I said, are you going to lay back because he obviously has the guaranteed starting position on the front row? Are you going to lay back at all? He said, are you crazy? I'm going in the front. I've got a fast race car, and I don't want the Daytona 500 to be my second win at Daytona, meaning he plans on winning today and on Sunday. Today, Burns.
Last year, Marty, Bobby Labonte was 6th in Winston Cup points. He qualified 12th here. He should be okay, even if he doesn't finish in the top 14. But he wants to win. He's never won here in 10 tries. Bill Weber?
Well, Kenny Wallace begins this race with professional pride, but personal disappointment. He knows he's still a fill-in driver until Steve Park comes back, but he has tremendous talent and great equipment. He'd like to find his way to victory lane, even if it comes today. Let's go further down pit road to Matt.
Bill, Jeff Burton's team would love to have their luck turn around. In practice on Tuesday, they were involved in a crash. The team had to fly down, didn't have any clothes or toiletries, just jumped on a plane. They repaired the whole left side of the car, replaced the whole left side. Now they're hoping to maybe pick up Burton's first twin 125 Daytona qualifier here today. To Allen.
Yeah, Frank Stoddard was saying he called the shop, scrambled the troops, the fabricators up there, they jumped on a plane, then he had to give them money to go buy a toothbrush once they got here. They worked until midnight that night to fix this car. If you are not in Daytona today, I'm sorry, because it's gorgeous.
And we see the winds north, 14 miles per hour, really bothering the cars down in turns 1 and 2 as these cars exit turn 2. That little bit of a breeze is trying to blow them up the racetrack, causing a big-time push problem.
50 laps. Top 14 not already qualified, which means the top 14 besides Kevin Harvick get the transfer in to the Daytona 500 on Sunday. Harvick and Robert Presley bring the field down for the start.
Green flag, green flag.
Michael Waltrip.
Yikes. That's called threading the needle there.
Squeezed in behind Jeff Green and in front of Joe Nadeau. Not for long.
And all these guys watch that first qualifier. They know they've got to make it happen in the first 10 laps or it's not going to happen.
Here comes Kenny Wallace in the 1.
And Presley is not going anyplace in that 92.
Jeff Green and Harvick, no, that was Marcus, almost got together there. Harvick leads lap 1.
And they also watched that first qualifier and saw Jeffrey Bodine get black flagged to Jimmy Johnson for going beneath that yellow line. I don't think we'll have that problem in this race.
Keep an eye on Tony Stewart, the orange car. He won Sunday's Budweiser shootout. He has had a very strong car all week in practice. Here comes Michael Waltrip.
And it looks like he has a very strong car as well as he goes by Robbie Gordon in the 31 car, and they're 4 wide going the corners. Tony Stewart goes by his teammate on the outside.
Robbie Gordon was on the outside, and he put a block on, and when he did that, it opened up the outside lane, and he just lost a lot of positions.
He's still going backwards, still unable to get that 31 car up to speed for the lead.
Michael Waltrip, the defending 500 winner, out in front. That's Jerry Nadeau in the 25, trying to push him through. And here comes Jeremy Mayfield on the outside.
Jeremy is literally being pushed by Tony Stewart to the front.
Waltrip moves up the block. Here comes Stewart. Wow, look out. John Andretti on that outside lane, too.
Sorry, Alan. I was going to say, usually the first race is wild, and everybody that watching the first race is calm in the second race.
Well, see, there wasn't a wreck in the first one, so they got to make up for the first one and wreck twice in this one.
Here comes Mike Skinner, the gold car. Remember, he started at the back of this field.
Boy, Skinner needs to be in that top 14. He is doing everything he can. He knows got to get in that top 14 to be in the Daytona 500.
Last time by, Skinner was 9th position.
Michael Waltrip, Tony Stewart, Bobby Labonte, the first 3.
And look at Tony Stewart trying to go by on the outside. Bobby Labonte's going to help. Can they make it? Looks like they can to me.
Boy.
They got a regular old mess going on back there behind them. Pole sitter. Kevin Harvick in the middle. And look at that thing wiggle when the Ford car of Skinner pulled up behind him.
Like I said, that middle is not where you want to be, especially when
look out!
They're banging off each other. The cars are just not stable in the middle like they were with the old rule package. So, like earlier in the first race, you could do that on new tires, but after about 5 or 6 laps, you don't want to be there.
These drivers talk about the big wreck. The big wreck most of the time starts with a little bump, just like that one. They got away with one there.
And Mike needs to get out of the center. He needs to get back in line, or he's going to lose a lot. He's going to lose everything he gained.
And that white car on the outside is Greg Biffle trying to race his way into the 500. No points whatsoever. That time by, he was 12th position.
A couple of Pontiac teammates on the outside there. Tony Stewart and Bobby Labonte. Now 3 Chevrolets lined up on the inside. Waltrip, Nadeau, and Harvick.
Hard to get anything going on that inside line. We see Michael Waltrip. He has a very fast race car. But off the corner, they seem to lose a little bit of that momentum. That's why some of the drivers are talking about needing or wanting a little bit larger restrictor plate to get some power as you come off that corner like Michael Waltrip. You could stay up with those leaders on the outside.
Todd Bodine in the 66 car in the picture there. Remember, he had to drop to the end of the field. That's a backup car. He's all the way up into the top 10.
That time by Mike Skinner, 14th position. Rusty Wallace, 15th.
Just underway in the second of today's 2 Daytona 500 qualifying races. Tony Stewart barely leading Michael Waltrip. New leader at Daytona, Michael Waltrip is squeezed back by Tony Stewart to retake the top spot. Later on tonight on TNT, it's the NBA with Michael Jordan. The Washington Wizards taking on Chris Webber and the Sacramento Kings. Followed by Inside the NBA, it's 9 p.m. Eastern Time tonight, the NBA on TNT. Trouble, turn 2, Mike Skinner, and more. Spencer spinning. Buckshot Jones is in it.
These are the guys, too, that needed to race their way in.
Skinner drives away. Buckshot 44th on time, 41st on points.
And there's Jimmy Spencer's car with a lot of heavy damage to it.
46th.
How bad is it, Jimmy? The left side's torn all to hell. I'm coming in. I don't know.
Jimmy
Not
Spencer.
flat tire yet, but tail ends, left front fender, flat tires.
Jimmy Spencer, 46th on time, 38th on last year's points.
There's Buckshot Jones. He was owner points last year, 41st. He was 44th on time. I saw this coming off the second corner. Skinner was behind someone, and all of a sudden his car, I guess, got loose or something. He had to back up.
Boy, he got way out of the gas. Like I say, he may have had to jump out of the throttle because of the handling or whatever, but he checked up pretty hard.
Dave Blaney, the 77 car, gets a lot of damage.
Shauna Robinson and Bobby Gerhart also involved.
Let's see if we can see what happens. Boy, he's real
Was that just some smoke? Just when we picked up the shot, was there a little burst of smoke from Mike's car?
I don't know, because he really was off the pace there.
Like the engine gave up a cylinder or something?
I don't know. He's pulling off the pit lane right now.
You can't see it
Hard
there.
to tell.
Yeah.
Oh, Jimmy Spencer got run into.
And that's Shauna Robinson, the 49 car, running in the side of Jimmy Spencer.
Let's go back to that angle we were looking at before and see if we could see. I thought maybe I saw a little puff of smoke.
See the 4 car down there on the bottom.
right here.
Now he bottomed out right there. And then in BP, he may have bottomed out in that car. He may have lost the car a little bit and had to jump out of the gas right there.
Kenny Wallace, I don't know how much damage there is to the one car. He gets in the back of the 44, and Blaney, no place to go, right in the back. Matt?
And John Andretti in for service. They are going to make a chassis adjustment. He said he felt pretty good about this race car. They are going to make a 4-tire change. There was some talk on the radio whether to go for 2 or 4, but you heard some drivers in last Sunday's Budweiser shootout felt like that just 2 was not as good. Meanwhile, Rusty Wallace is in. He has damage to the right rear corner of his Miller Ford. They are going to make also damage, you can see, to the left front as they try to pull out that fender on Rusty's machine. To Marty.
Shauna Robinson is on pit road. Fairly heavy damage to the right front. And as you can see, it seems that it's gotten the radiator as well, as they now tell her to kill the engine. And she's going to be sitting on pit road here for a while.
Cars who pitted: John Andretti, Greg Biffle, Robert Presley, Hermie Sadler, Bobby Gerhart, Rusty Wallace, Dave Blaney has gone to the garage, plus Shauna Robinson, Mike Skinner, and Jimmy Spencer. Marty?
And Mike Skinner is back in, Alan. The right front was going down. They had changed left side tires last time. This time they are changing the right side tires. Mike did say he did have an engine problem. They're going to investigate that further. Matt?
And Jimmy Spencer has made his way to pit road. The crew goes to work on the 41 machine. They're beating out the left rear fender. They are going to make a 4-tire change. Remember, Jimmy Spencer, one of those drivers who is questionable on making the 44th running of the Daytona 500. He told me this morning they felt like they might have had their bad luck behind them. They lost a motor in practice yesterday. They were hoping their bad luck would end. It looks like Spencer is snake bit again as the crew continues to work on that 41 machine, and he pulls away.
Big jam in traffic off of turn number 2, right around cars in the transfer spot. Those who got through it unscathed, like Stacy Compton, Dave Marcus, for example, may have just gotten a huge break. And these drivers, like Jimmy Spencer and Mike Skinner, may have just lost their chance to be in Sunday's Daytona 500. So we're under caution after an accident off of turn number 2. You ride with Jimmy Spencer into the melee.
Hello. We're in it, boys. He's spinning around.
The Daytona International Speedway, where the field is being set for Sunday's running of the Daytona 500 in today's qualifying races. Under caution for a multi-car accident in race number 2. These are the drivers involved. Most of them have continued, though some have gone behind the wall. Dave Blaney has taken his car out of the race. And Shauna Robinson's attempt to get into the Daytona 500 is also over. Let's go to Marty Snyder.
Yeah, her attempt is done, Alan. And Shauna, tell us what happened in front of you. Could you see?
It looked like, I think it was maybe the 14 and the 41. A few of them just got bunched up together, about 2 in front of me, and I thought I was going to get through it. It just felt like I was getting ready to drive right through it, and then the 41 turned left right down. We had nowhere to go. Just unfortunate for the BAM team. We showed a lot while we were here, and we really were set to make this race. The start didn't help out much. When I lost Jeff Burton, there, and I didn't. That put me in the back, and got to work your way back up, but that's how it goes.
Her speed likely not good enough at this point, Alan, to make her the second woman ever to enter the Daytona 500.
Here's what happened over in turn 2.
Well, I think you're right, Alan. May have lost the motor in the 4 car, and that's what caused this.
Skinner, Jimmy Spencer, Buckshot Jones, their chances of being in the 500 have been severely hurt. Still cleaning up the mess over in turn number 2 in Daytona 500 qualifying race number 2. Michael Waltrip is your leader as we look at the current standings. Jeff Burton in that repaired car up to 9th. Todd Bodine had to actually start in the back of the field.
But he told me this morning that's a very good race car. That is the 66 car he used in the Budweiser shootout and started on the last row and worked his way forward.
Dave Marcus and John Andretti in the last 2 transfer spots right now.
And really 16th back were involved in that wreck. Somehow, some of them have, minor damage, but some of them have a lot of damage, like Jimmy Spencer.
Shauna Robinson, Buckshot Jones, Dave Blaney, all with big problems in that crash. We were looking at what happened or speculating on what might have happened to Mike Skinner that caused him to slow up over there in turn 2 and trigger that wreck. Marty, what about it?
Well, Alan, we've uncovered the reason, and what happened to Mike Skinner was that his primary ignition went bad coming out of turn 2. As he was switching the ignition boxes, that's when he slowed up and everybody else ran into Mike Skinner. So that's what happened to Mike Skinner's car. He was in the process of switching boxes, which when that happens to you, there's not much time to make that happen. That switch happened, and when he did that, the car slowed down and people ran into him. Dave?
Hey, Marty, a guy who was caught up in that accident is Dave Blaney. It's his 3rd Daytona 500 trying to get in. He's made it on time. He's raced in. This time you may have to rely on owner's points. What happened? What did you see?
Well, I saw something happen to the 4 car. A little smoke come out of it out of the corner of my eye, and I saw him slow down a little bit, and I thought, we might be all right. And then he slowed down a lot, and they got into him and right up in front of me. But I mean, I thought we were in the right line there on the outside, and I thought it was eventually going to creep ahead of the bottom line, and we were looking good. Just a short day.
All right, he hopes he makes it in. He still has a chance. Matt?
Dave, Jimmy Spencer's already paid another visit to pit road, and he's already returned to the racetrack, but old habits are hard to break. Doug Randolph, his crew chief, when Spencer came in, jumped off the wall, jumped over the wall to help out the team, but he's not wearing a helmet. Remember the new rules this year, anyone that goes over the wall, including officials, must wear some sort of helmet. Doug remembered that and jumped back over the wall and jumped back on the radio, barking orders to the team, trying to help fix the number 41 machine.
So that's the story there from pit road as teams continue to adjust to those new rules. That ignition box quitting, causing this pileup off of turn number 2. They're still cleaning up, so we'll take a break and come back for more in a moment. Speed Weeks at Daytona builds to its climax Saturday on TNT with coverage of Winston Cup Happy Hour final practice for the Daytona 500 at noon Eastern Time, followed by the NASCAR Busch Series in their Daytona race, the EAS GNC Live Well 300. Then Sunday, it's the 44th running of the Daytona 500. You'll see it live on NBC at 12 noon Eastern Time. 43 drivers chasing some $12 million, but more importantly, a spot on the Harley Earl Trophy as a winner of the Great American Race. Field going to get the signal now as they come to the start-finish line, and we'll go back racing in one more lap.
And a lot of the cars involved in that crash are still on the racetrack. The one car, Kenny Walsh, we saw him get in the back of someone, but I don't see a lot of damage on the nose of that car.
Well, that looks like right there in the
where it
center
says
of the
Monte
nose.
Carlo?
Yep, on the bottom.
Bill Weber, what are they saying in the pits?
Yeah, he ran into the back of the 44. He hit the 44. They bent in the front there. He did not pit. They've talked to Kenny. He says the temperatures are fine. Obviously, they're going to watch it when he goes back to racing, especially when they duck into traffic. So they'll watch the temperatures and they'll watch the handling of that race car.
They got a lot of kick out. You know, last year they gave the Dodge that other inch of kick out on those. Look how far the bottom of that front bumper is kicked out.
Are you saying that might help him, BP?
It might help a little bit of downforce.
Especially if these cars are pushing, and like what we talked about in the earlier race, it may help him a little bit.
Now, the cars that are damaged in these accidents today, as far as how that affects the drivers standing for the Daytona 500. Dave Blaney, as an example, in that 77 car, he's 23rd on owner points from last year, the team he's with, so he's going to be in. But if they have to bring out the backup car, just like in a normal race, they'll go to the back of the field for Sunday. Somebody like Kenny Wallace, though, if they finish this race without further damaging this car, obviously they'll be easily able to fix it, and he'll hold whatever spot he gains in qualifying here for the 500.
Blaney won't lose too much because he'll probably start about 38th to 39th and have to go back to 43rd.
Yeah.
The 4 car, that's the one that I'm really concerned about because we don't know how much damage that he has. If he has any kind of damage, is the engine going to run okay? Because I'm convinced that he has to race his way in to the Daytona 500. He does not have, his speed is not fast enough, and I don't think his point standings from last year is good enough.
And even though we've thinned the field out some, Mike Skinner is still back in 19th right now. And he's got to be 15th or better to make the race.
He was waving guys by, and I wonder why he's doing it.
He pitted too soon. He came in before pit road was open, so he's got to restart it. Actually, that's a good point. He's got to restart at the end of the line. So he's even farther back than 19th. Marty?
Well, I asked Scott Ellison about the car and how it was aerodynamically, if there was a lot of damage. He said, actually, it's pretty good. They're in pretty good shape as far as that's concerned, Benny, but the engine is a little bit of a concern. We'll watch this green flag and see if it's a factor right now.
Robbie Gordon going to make a move pretty quickly. Going to try and take a spot from his teammate, Jeff Green. It's Gordon in the black and orange, 31.
And I tell you what, they better get that settled pretty quickly, or this top group will drive away. And, well, they did get it settled. Robbie Gordon's dropping like a rock.
I think Robbie probably realized he should just crack the throttle a little bit, get back in line, give it another try.
So he was 8th in line last time by. Let's see where he's fallen to now from that failed attempt.
Now there's about 15 cars probably in that single file line right now.
And looks like Mike Skinner's car is going to be okay. Talking about the Kodak Film 4 car.
Look at Jimmy Spencer, damage and all. Right with him.
Last time by, they were 16th and 17th. Skinner drives to the outside, leaves John Andretti and Andretti tries to drive up and does right in front of Skinner.
Dave Marcus in the 71, last transfer spot right now.
And you talked about it earlier, BP. You have to make these desperate moves like that. I mean, John, if it was a 500, John probably would have let the 4-car go. But you can't. You're still trying to race your way in this race, and you have to take some more chances than you would on the 500.
Look at that bodywork flapping around on Spencer, right front. Or is that just tape that they use to try and hold some of the bodywork? Both.
Hermie Sadler, the 02 car, right in front of him.
Spencer back in 18th. Racing Sadler for that spot. Rusty Wallace with a push for Spencer. And Robert Presley in that 92 car started this race in 2nd spot. Got shuffled back in the early going. Made a pit stop under the caution after barely getting through the accident. Now he's all the way back in 20th place.
I don't see a whole lot of damage on the 92 car, Robert Presley's.
No, I don't either. It looks like something is wrong. The car is just not going like it was in qualifying.
There's Dave Marcus right now in 16th place. He's just been shuffled out. Greg Biffle and John Andretti have gone by him. So Dave Marcus right now is outside the window to get into the Daytona 500 in his qualifying race. He's 22nd on time trial speed.
That should be okay. Dave Burns, what are they saying down there?
Well, this time he got passed on the racetrack. The first time that he got shuffled out of the lead pack, he got pushed very, very close to that out-of-bounds line. In fact, he backed off the throttle so that he didn't go over it. The crew asked him if he wanted to move to the high side to avoid that and to try it, but he said, no, let's stick to our plan. We're better on the low side, and we'll try to race in by racing that line.
Right now, he and Mike Skinner better become real fast friends.
Because right now, they've got to be pretty doggone slow because these wrecked cars of Spencer and Rusty Wallace have caught them.
And that's one thing about Dave working on the low side, but you got to have all your pals behind you able to work on the low side as well.
Robert Presley at the end of that group in 20th place. This team's quite a story, Bill.
Yeah, it's amazing what they've done to get here, but right now, Alan, Robert Presley is radioed in. His motor is going flat, so it looks like a motor problem on the 92. Very disappointing after all the work they put in to get here.
It's a race team without any sponsorship for most of the winter. Just 5 employees left in the shop after they had to lay everybody off last fall at the end of the year. The end of the season last year. Presley will be okay to be in the 500. He has the 4th fastest time, so he's pretty much a lock. Not pretty much, he is a lock.
And we see how far he is from the transfer position of 14th, over 2 seconds, and losing ground. And there you see how far that Dave Marcus has fallen behind John Andretti. There's nothing he can do.
No, there isn't. And you know, now you look at John Andretti, if he loses that lead draft, he's going to be in trouble. And that's a tough thing when you get on the tail end of these long drafts. It's hard to stay right up on the guy in front of you.
Whoa, who's that just went out in turn 2?
And 16 car.
Now Biffle's off the pace.
Okay.
Somebody else just shot way up the racetrack out of that pack.
A blue car going in turn 3, Jeff Burton.
There it is. Boy, did he have his hands full.
Slow, don't let it come apart.
Matt, what happened to Burton?
He just came on the radio, says he feels like I have cut or blown a tire. He says, I feel like I've cut or blown a tire. They're telling him just to back off, try to save it, and get that car to pit road. Remember, because if that rubber on that tire starts to break away and flap, it will do damage to the fenders. And remember, this is plate racing. Aerodynamics is everything. They feel like it could be the right rear.
Now, as you can see,
now
it's
the right front.
Right front tire. And you got to be careful trying to get back into this, because if it does start to shred, it will take your fender and your hood and your oil belt and everything with it.
What a save he made. I mean, that car shot right up toward the wall in traffic.
Right front, right side tires, no damage at all.
Now that certainly helps Skinner and Jimmy Spencer and Dave Barkas.
Matt Yoakum.
The Burton is here for service. They feel like it is that right front. You can see it is shredded, but the inner liner did its job and stayed up as Burton stalled it. As the pack goes by, Burton's down and away.
So he's down a lap, and in the meantime, his teammate Greg Biffle is coasting inside of turn 4, apparently without power. So tough lap for the Roush team.
Yes, it was, and Biffle, with no points to fall back on and not fast enough in speed, he was only 39th fastest. See no way he's going to make the 500, and now Mike Skinner has moved into the last transfer position.
Which is 15th place because Kevin Harvick is still among the leaders. That lead pack starting to break up a little bit too, when Jeff Burton had his problem right in the middle of it. Michael Waltrip still leading. Tony Stewart and Kevin Harvick have led laps. Harvick led the first lap. Stewart led the next 3. Michael Waltrip has been out in front since lap number 7. Ian Stewart mixed it up for a couple of circuits, but since Mikey got out front, so far he's been unheaded.
And I don't think we'll see this
trouble. Jimmy Spencer. Caution is out. And that's the end of the line for Jimmy today.
I couldn't help it.
46th on time, 38th on points from last year. It is most unlikely that Jimmy Spencer will be in Sunday's Daytona 500. When you get a car that you've damaged once and you repair it, it's not uncommon for a piece of metal to get into a tire or something like that. And we saw that bodywork flopping on Spencer's car earlier when he was at speed.
And you don't know what's really bent under there either. You try to come in, you're trying to make some, repairs without losing a lap. Something could have break, something could have, been bent from the first crash.
All right, it's not very uncommon. Yeah, we see the smoke as the right front tire starts going down. And there we see the contact. Matt?
Benny, Jimmy Spencer came on the radio a few moments ago and says he felt like the tire was starting to go down. But remember, he's trying to race his way into the Great American Race and didn't want to come in and take a chance. He was hoping that maybe he might catch a caution, but unfortunately he was the caution.
Tough break.
On board, Jimmy Spencer.
You heard him back off the throttle, and just after he backed off the throttle, you heard the tire start hitting the fender and damage the fender as he started disintegrating.
Riding back to the locker room. Jimmy Spencer going to take it to the garage and then nervously wait out about the next hour or so to see if somehow he can squeeze into this 500 field. It's not likely, but you have to wait till the final numbers are done.
He's sweating bullets anyway.
I mean, this is Florida after all.
That's right.
Might have to have a recount. Some pit stops, Stacy Compton, Rusty Wallace, Hermie Sadler are all coming in. Bill?
Well, Stacy Compton on pit road and A.J. Foyt's number 14 car. These are guys at the back of the field. They have something to gain. There was a lot of conversation. Jerry Nadeau, Kenny Wallace, Robbie Gordon. Do we pit? Do we stay out? Well, we know the guys behind us are going to pit. That line just kept getting longer. So it's 4 tires for Compton. He'll head out. We go to Matt.
And Bill, Rusty Wallace, another driver who is making his way on the pit road here. A 4-tire change for the Blue Deuce. The crew was going to take a look at the car because, remember, he was involved in that earlier altercation as the crew's going to beat on that back deck lid. Going to try to make some more patches and work on that spoiler a little bit just to try to make the handling on Rusty's mount just a little bit better.
I'll tell you what, tires that make a big difference over, these guys that didn't pit are going to be probably backing off the throttle a little bit if their cars are tight. These cars may not, so that was a smart move, especially on the 14s. 14 car can make up a lot of ground with new tires.
Spend months and months working on a car to get it as aerodynamic as possible for Daytona, to the wind tunnel probably 5 or 6 times, and now they're working on it with sledgehammers. Michael Waltrip is the leader, 20 laps to go. Remember that 15th spot is the cutoff point for the automatic transfer into the Daytona 500. There it is. Compton got nothing to lose by coming in and taking on those tires. Drivers already in the garage. From this point on down, most of those will not be in the 500. Dave Blaney probably will be.
We're all done, boys. I'm sorry. I couldn't help it.
Hey, tire blow, Jimmy?
Yeah. I knew it was going, too. I knew the lap before it was going. I'm sorry, man. I'm all right.
Jimmy Spencer's reaction after that accident that we just showed you when the tire went down on the right front of his target machine. Under caution as they continue to clean up the racetrack over there in turn number 2. Let's just go back and remind you of how they set the field for the Daytona 500.
Last Saturday, we settled the positions 1 and 2. Jimmy Johnson will start on the pole in the 48 car. Kevin Harvick on the outside. All the cars that finished in the top 14 in the first race will start on the inside line. Now we're trying to determine who will start on the outside line, back, second row back through the 15th row. The top 15 cars or 14 cars other than the pole sitter. Then we go back to qualifying speed, 31 through 36. Positions 37 through 43, provisionals based on 2001 NASCAR owner point standings. 43rd would be available to a past NASCAR Winston Cup champion if he needed it. I will tell you that right now, the way the field stacks up, Shauna Robinson would be the last car on speed. She would start 36th.
Folks on the edge. Jimmy Spencer, Casey Atwood, Mike Skinner. Of course, in that first race, Kurt Busch raced his way in.
Yeah, so Kurt Busch is in, so yeah.
Kyle Petty, no doubt, very nervously watching right now. For now, our unofficial calculations, Kyle Petty's in, if this race were to finish as it is right now. So we'll see.
We'll see. Because Kyle had the 27th fastest time in qualifying. Those are the positions 31 through 36.
Jeff Burton to the inside of the leader, Michael Waltrip. Remember, he lost a lap with that green flag pit stop due to the flat right front tire. Watch for Tony Stewart here to try and make a move soon after the restart.
Jeff Burton being down there might be a problem. And another problem that his teammate, who was probably going with him, fell back on the restart. All right, here we go. Jeff Burton goes on the outside, so Tony Stewart, Kevin Harvick. That would be a good time, wouldn't it? Wally off turn 2, get a good run. Harvick is backing up for that run.
The 18 car's got a pretty good run getting off a 2 right there.
Bobby Labonte falling back may not have been an accident.
All right, could not. Hey, here we go. He just goes by Harvick and moves into third. And Jerry Nadeau is down there trying to take that position away, the other position away from Harvick.
Here goes Stewart to the outside of Michael Waltrip for the lead. Waltrip by a nose that time. Nadeau and Harvick side by side for fourth. Kenny Wallace and Jeff Burton tight going into turn one.
Harvick, beside of the 29 car, pole sitter for this race, beside the 25, cannot get going. Looks like now maybe he is going. Along with some help from the 19 of Jeremy Mayfield. Yeah, here he comes.
Mayfield pushing Harvick right up to Tony Stewart's bumper. Double wide, now 5 rows deep. Make it about 10 rows deep all the way back through this pack. Good run that time for Stewart.
Last time by the 14 car, Stacy Compton still back in 16th position, even after that 4-tire change.
16th spot on down. Not qualified. Look at those cars bounce around.
There's nowhere the 14 car can really go.
Waltrip and Stewart still side by side for the lead. Labonte and Harvick for third and fourth rather. Nadeau and Mayfield. Jeff Green and Kenny Wallace. Todd Bodine and John Andretti.
And Casey Atwood in that 7 car is back in 11th. Mike Skinner is 12th.
Dave Marcus, 13th spot. He's in the 500 for now in that 71 car. And how many laps before the freshness of those new tires for Stacy Compton is no longer any kind of help to him?
I think they're going to be a help for a long time. It's just he's got nowhere to go here. I mean, as long as these cars are side by side, unless you try driving up the middle, you can't go anywhere. And he looks like he's having a hard time just sticking with these guys.
Neither line able to move. Just both stuck right there. Chevrolet and Pontiac in each of the first 2 rows. Then a Chevy and a Dodge in that 3rd row. First Ford is Todd Bodine. He's back there 5th deep on the inside lane.
And that time by, Stacy Compton finally moved forward. He's moved into 14th. Skinner back to 15th, and Robbie Gordon, the 31 car, back to 16th now.
Robert Presley is on pit road in the 92 car, unscheduled stop.
Boy, this is the time you need to be in the right lane, especially on that last lap. You could be in, taking the white flag, and out on the checker.
Bill, what's going on with Presley?
Motor's just really flat. They just brought it in to see if it's a plug wire, to see if they can fix it. Otherwise, they're going to take it to the garage because they said there's no reason to be out there if the car's not going to run at full speed, and they'll get it ready for Sunday, Alan.
Yeah, qualified with the 4th fastest time. They're in the Daytona 500, so nothing to gain.
Well, Michael Waltrip goes back to the front by himself. And he has that 2nd and 3rd place cars, the teammates of Bob Labonte and Tony Stewart side by side.
Robbie Gordon a minute ago almost made it 3 deep coming through the trial. Look at eased off and got back in line behind Mike Skinner.
Well, Robbie Gordon is now up to 13th. He's in the Daytona 500. Mike Skinner's up to 12th.
Who's that? Harvick getting shuffled out. Harvick stuck in the middle in that 29 car. And the last thing he needs to do right now is do anything to get that car wrinkled up. He's going to start 2nd in the 500 no matter where he finishes in this race. what, Michael Waltrip, we've seen this both times now between he and Tony Stewart. If he can keep Stewart behind him for a little while, he just seems to be able to establish himself in front.
And now Tony Stewart is struggling. He is in the middle. Cars going by on the inside. That's Nadeau. On the outside, Kenny Wallace. But Tony Stewart is falling back. He's dropping like a rock. Man, that middle is not the place to be. Dave, what's Tony Stewart saying?
Well, Benny, he was saying that his car works anywhere on the track. It works in the high line. It works in the low line. There's one place that the cars will not work this year. It is in the middle.
So Tony Stewart has fallen back to 10th place now and still losing ground.
And you can hear him get out the throttle there. And he got off the throttle getting off a 4 when you're in the center. A pretty good run there. Oh!
Run almost became run over.
Yep.
Oh, man. These guys are pushing, shoving.
Well, as we heard Ricky Rudd say earlier, the desperate boys.
You do desperate things when you get desperate. Watch Tony Stewart as he goes in the corner. See his right foot. See his left foot poised on top of that brake pedal. He has to just reach down and slow the car down with a brake pedal. His right foot is up here, and we see it not moving. There, see the brake. See him go down the brake foot with his left foot? But his right foot is not there. He's off the back gas just a little bit, but back on the throttle strong.
And when you're running that close to another car like he was down the 43 car of Johnny Andretti, you've got to work the brake pedal. Try not to get out the gas too much because
Oh, man. Did he back off? I forgot to look.
I didn't either.
I was watching the wreck.
Wow.
Oh, man.
He must have backed off because he lost his momentum.
Right, but he got it back there by pushing the 25 car, Jerry Nadeau.
Kevin Harvick, remember he got hung in the middle and shuffled toward the back. Here he comes on that outside lane, pushing his way to third by Jeremy Mayfield.
Robbie Gordon has been in the back. And look at Rusty Walsh with that beat-up car up in 9th place. Rusty. Let's go on board to Robbie Gordon and see what might have happened to Tony Stewart just a moment ago. Oh, a little contact with Kenny Wallace, I see.
Now, in all that shuffling, Mike Skinner has been put out.
And now he's in.
He was out a lap ago. Now he's back in. Casey Atwood's now out of the transfer spot.
And Casey Atwood, 32nd in owner points, 29th in speed. Man, oh man.
Bobby Labonte looking outside of Michael Waltrip.
And where did John Andretti come from?
And that little outside look is going to cost him. Harvick is by. Mayfield is by.
Now Bobby Labonte's turn to drop like a rock. Kenny, don't. If you go in the middle, get in the middle, Kenny. Don't do it. I'm telling you, it's not a good deal.
Here comes Stewart.
And Jerry Nadeau.
Todd Bodine in the middle of it. My goodness, that was close too.
We're getting down to the end of this thing.
It's getting a little intense too.
4.5 laps to go.
Here comes Mayfield. Stewart right with him. Wow.
And
look at these guys.
And Todd Bodine wanted to do something as well, but could not find a hole.
Stacy Compton is in 16th place. He is the one outside of the transfer spot. The two cars ahead of him have the last couple of spots. These last 4 laps are going to be frantic. Dave Burns.
Jeremy Mayfield is running great. I just talked with his crew chief, Sammy Johns. No complaints today, but he said that he does have to have someone run with him. Now, Tony Stewart chirped on the radio that he couldn't get help from Bobby Labonte, his teammate last time. Maybe Tony will go with Jeremy Mayfield.
Now Rusty Wallace, that beat-up race car, is starting to show. He's falling back to 16th, and the 14 car of Compton, he's in.
Dave Marcus in the 71. Last time across the line showed in 10th place.
And Mike Skinner's falling back to about, looks like maybe 14th.
And those 4 cars running right there, the 71 car and the 4 car of Skinner. Who else you got? Casey and Stacy Compton. All are trying to race their way in. They're all together on the track.
Looks like the 30 car maybe of Jeff Green might have a problem. He's falling back with Rusty Wallace.
Jeff right now outside the transfer spot, but he has the 10th fastest time, so he'll be in the 500.
Right now, the 30 car of Jeff Green is the last car to transfer into the Daytona 500. And there's no car to pressure. Well, Rusty Wallace can get by. As a matter of fact, Rusty Wallace did get by.
Nadu under Harvick. There they are, 15th and 16th. Rusty Wallace in the 500. Jeff Green outside the transfer spot, but again, his time trial speed should be good enough to get him in.
Well, he's trying to get by Rusty Wallace for that last spot.
Jeremy Mayfield is falling off the pace. Mayfield was 3rd last time by. He's going to the end of the line. Something's happened there.
Oh, man.
16th on time. He'll be okay. He should be okay.
But that puts the 30 car in the field. And Rusty Wallace, based on finishing position.
White flag is up. Final lap of the second Daytona 500 qualifying race. The transfer spot looks to be okay, but they're still mixing it up hard. Tony Stewart right on Michael Waltrip's bumper. Let's see if he's able to make a move. So far, the transfer spot looks like it's going to be quiet. Todd Bodine, Casey Atwood, Stacy Compton, Rusty Wallace, all of those drivers are in. Stewart dropping back for a final run off turn 4 to the checkered flag. Michael Waltrip moves low to block. And he's going to win. Michael Waltrip wins the second Daytona 500 qualifying race. The defending 500 winner leads 46 of 50 laps to get the victory and claim the 4th starting spot in Sunday's race.
And on the last lap, Rusty Wallace falls back to 16th and will have to revert back to his point standings or speed to make the Daytona 500.
He was 8th in final owner points last season, so he'll be in the 500. And there's Rusty. Jeff Green got the final transfer spot in this race. Those who did not make the cut in this race: Rusty Wallace, Hermie Sadler, Jeff Burton, Robert Presley, Norm Benning, Jimmy Spencer, Greg Biffle, Bobby Gerhart, Shauna Robinson, Buckshot Jones, and Dave Blaney. And it'll be a 33rd straight Daytona 500 for Dave Marcus.
He finishes in 7th position. A great run for Marcus.
Here's how they ran in Daytona 500 qualifying race number 2. Michael Waltrip, your winner. Remember Kevin Harvick, he'll start on the outside of the front row in Sunday's 500. How about Marcus finishing 7th in that race? Isn't that great?
That is. Mike Skinner comes back from the spin to finish in the 10th position.
Kenny Wallace, despite the front end damage, in. Stacy Compton took the tires, came back to get a transfer spot, and there it is. There's your cutoff. The rest of those drivers have to go back and try and figure out, are they in or are they out? We are also quickly going to work to try and tabulate that for you. We'll let you know who's in and who's out when we come back to Daytona. Back at the Daytona International Speedway, they are calculating and tabulating who's in and who's out of the 44th Daytona 500. Remember, Jeremy Mayfield dropped back in that last lap? Here's why.
Going down to turn 1, the dark car, that's Mayfield. He's trying to get by Tony Stewart for second spot. They go on the apron of the racetrack, and Jeremy realized he could not make the speed. He just backed way off the accelerator, and as he lost momentum, you see all the other cars go by. Watch this again as Stewart puts that block on him. Man.
Both sides clear. Both sides clear. Clear by 2. Clear all.
One more replay. There we see Jeremy has a run. He starts by, but here comes Tony to block.
Now, a couple things here. They are both below the out-of-bounds line, but neither advanced a position by going down below there. And that kind of blocking is what you're going to have with these kind of rules.
I think the NASCAR are going to talk to those guys about the blocking. I think they've got to talk to all the drivers about the blocking.
Well, Michael Waltrip didn't have to do any blocking, did he, Bill?
He certainly didn't. Drove his way to victory lane, but watching his mirror along the way in a familiar sight. Very reminiscent of 1 year ago. Michael Waltrip in victory lane at the Daytona International Speedway.
How was it? I love Daytona, and did I mention I love Coca-Cola too? That stuff tastes so refreshing after a hot race. It's Valentine's there. You my Valentine's. Oh, your daddy told you we could get to victory lane today. Oh, what a great feeling, Bill. It was a hard-fought battle. Tony and them about wrecked, and that almost won them the race. I knew when I looked in my mirror, you know, you get a run like that, you can pass the guy. But our Napa Auto Parts Chevy, Slugger, Steve Mill, Richie, all of them just did a great job. Got a new sponsor in this year, and Ritz Crackers, and just everybody on board Klausner Furniture. Thank you for this opportunity to drive this great car. Don't you love it, Mace?
Michael, good enough to be back here on Sunday?
Definitely. But don't let the not a lot of lead changes fool you. This is it's going to be a hard race to win. You double the amount of cars in the event, put more cars in there that are better, more better cars, they might say, and you'll see some crazy stuff. I drove, it was the best I've ever driven those last 10 laps, and I was real proud of that accomplishment. I want to say hi to my mama. I want to say hi to Jerome. His dad passed away last night. Our thoughts are with him. I love you, Mama. We're in victory lane at Daytona. DW's even here. Did you see him? DW's wandering around here somewhere.
Imagine that. And you brought DEI back to victory lane, Mike.
Well, this is an event that defined Dale Earnhardt. And believe me, I thought about that several times.
Congratulations, and play some golf and aim at Wally's house again, would you?
I will, but he's got guns. Too much artillery.
Michael Waltrip had the artillery today back in victory lane. He starts in row 2 in the 44th running of the Daytona 500 here on Sunday. Matt?
Well, Tony, last weekend you were first with a couple laps to go. Now you were second with a couple laps to go. First, obviously the place to be in the closing laps.
Doesn't seem to hurt you, but it can be done. I mean, you can pass the leader if you get the right run, and we just didn't get the right run, and you know, we were just working hard to try to get that run, but I never quite got the run that I needed. And Michael has a real strong car, so I mean, he, you know, it was going to be hard to get by him.
How much did that hurt you there when your teammate couldn't go with you and you fell back?
Well, it didn't surprise me any. Let's put it that way.
As Tony Stewart, he won the Budweiser Shootout last Sunday, looking for his first Daytona 500 victory. Marty Snyder.
Well, Matt, check out the damage on the back of Casey Atwood's car from the last restart, and he had to work his way up through the field with that damage, what he called a parachute, and you did it, Casey. You're in the Daytona 500. Take us through those last few laps.
We were running really good. You know, we was in 8 or 9 car breakaway there, and the car was really strong. And then on that last restart, everybody bunched up and we got hit. And that quarter panel sticking out was just a parachute. We couldn't do anything after that, just hang on and do the best we could. So, you know, luckily we was able to get in the top 15 or 14 or whatever it was, and hopefully have a good run Sunday.
And he said, I am so relieved. That was the most nerve-wracking 50 laps of my entire life. Dave Burns.
Well, I don't think it was too nerve-wracking for Dave Marcus. In fact, on the way in, he was talking about how to set up the car. He was talking about turkey hunting. What's it like to make this Daytona 500 your last?
It's fantastic. I mean, for my people that work for me, all my fans, Richard Childress and all his guys' fabrication shop, engine department, Mr. Bill Jordan from Real Tree Outdoors, our sponsor, and my wife and the children, and Dwayne Lake, our PR guy. And, I mean, just everybody. It's fantastic. I'm just tickled to death, and I would like for this Daytona 500 to represent on my behalf anyhow, the best I can do, my late friend Dale Earnhardt. I really miss him.
Kenny Wallace came up and told you had a good car. Can you race toward the front of the pack all day on Sunday?
Well, I think the car that we had in the 125 miler, Dick Trickle and I have been working together a lot this week on it. Dick came up with a lot of great ideas. I think so. What we really needed in the 125 miler was a race like the first one. We expected our car to shine really good the last 15 laps. The caution flags in between didn't play into our game plan, but when we did get going again, the other guys weren't able, I don't think, to run the corners flat foot. We were, so anytime a hole opened up, I was able to grab it and move up.
All right, this is a great way to start his retirement. He's got one race left, guys. Let's go back to Alan.
Dave Marcus in a 33rd Daytona 500. Good to see Teresa Earnhardt here enjoying the victory with Michael Waltrip.
Yes, it is. Hi, Teresa. Welcome back to Daytona.
And I've seen Michael do a lot of driving today, but he's really much better at it in the car.
How about Tony Stewart? Was he throwing a little fire there, Bobby Labonte's way?
Well, I think Coach Gibbs has got some he's got to throw some water on the fire because, yeah, he was throwing a little barb at Bobby there.
He's got a little huddle to have?
Yes, he's going to have to huddle up with those guys.
Michael Waltrip huddling with his daughter, celebrating his win in the second Daytona 500 qualifying race today. After this break, we'll tell you who's in and who's out of Sunday's 44th Great American Race.
Tony to block.
Now, a couple things here. They are both below the out-of-bounds line, but neither advanced a position by going down below there. And that kind of blocking is what you're going to have with these kind of rules.
I think the NASCAR are going to talk to those guys about the blocking. I think they've got to talk to all the drivers about the blocking.
Well, Michael Waltrip didn't have to do any blocking, did he, Bill?
He certainly didn't. Drove his way to victory lane, but watching his mirror along the way in a familiar sight. Very reminiscent of 1 year ago, Michael Waltrip in victory lane at the Daytona International Speedway. How was it?
I love Daytona, and did I mention I love Coca-Cola too? That stuff tastes so refreshing after a hot race. It's Valentine's there. You my Valentine's. Oh, your daddy told you we could get to victory lane today. Oh, what a great feeling, Bill. It was a hard-fought battle. Tony and them about wrecked, and that almost won them the race. I knew when I looked in my mirror, you know, you get a run like that, you can pass the guy. But our Napa Auto Parts Chevy, Slugger, Steve Mill, Richie, all of them just did a great job. Got a new sponsor in this year in Ritz Crackers, and just everybody on board Klausner Furniture. Thank you for this opportunity to drive this great car. Don't you love it, Mace?
Michael, good enough to be back here on Sunday?
Definitely, but don't let the not a lot of lead changes fool you. It's going to be a hard race to win. You double the amount of cars in the event, put more cars in there that are better, more better cars, they might say, and you'll see some crazy stuff. I drove, it was the best I've ever driven those last 10 laps, and I was real proud of that accomplishment. I want to say hi to my mama. I want to say hi to Jerome. His dad passed away last night. Our thoughts are with him. I love you, Mama. We're in victory lane at Daytona. DW's even here. Did you see him? DW's wandering around here somewhere.
Imagine that. And you brought DEI back to victory lane, Mike.
Well, this is an event that defined Dale Earnhardt, and believe me, I thought about that several times.
Congratulations, and play some golf and aim at Wally's house again, would you?
I will, but he's got guns. Too much artillery.
The Daytona 500 qualifying races on TNT are brought to you by McDonald's. We love to see you smile. By John Q, starring Denzel Washington and Robert Duvall in theaters tomorrow. By Napa Auto Parts. Napa, we keep America running. And by Budweiser, with the crisp, clean, refreshing taste you'll find in no other beer. This Bud's for you. Marty Snyder.
Well, Kyle, you made it. In your sheet, your little workout sheet here says that you made it, I guess.
Yeah, that's who was ahead of us. These are my teeth marks where I chewed on it. But yeah, you know, we felt like our time was good enough when we requalified. Obviously, it ended up being that way. I feel bad for Buckshot and for Jimmy Spencer and for Hut Strickland and the other Dodge guys, but we are extremely ecstatic. This was important for the Sprint Dodge to be in this race, and you know, the guys that at Mike Agee Racing's engines gave us a good engine for qualifying, and that's what ended up putting us in the race. And these guys will get a good car under us for race-wise.
All right, Alan, Kyle Petty is in the race.
Yes, he is. Benny, what do you think?
Hut Strickland misses it by about 1/10 of a mile per hour.
Unbelievable. Should be a fun race on Sunday.
Great race. I'm looking forward to it.
Saturday, happy hour, and the NASCAR Busch Series race live on TNT, then Sunday at noon Eastern Time. It's the Daytona 500 on NBC. Hope you'll join us. Hope you've enjoyed our coverage of the Daytona 500 qualifying races today.